Hey, Oz.
Hey, Curtis.
Hey, what movie we watching this week?
This week we are going to watch the movie marriage of Dead Alive, Cool Hand Luke,
Mm.
and Jonesy from Police Academy doing the overdub sound effects. This week we are watching 1990 something's Story of Ricky. What year is this? 1991's Story of Ricky.
I like 90 something.
90 somethings.
90 something.
Welcome back to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the weekly podcast where we take a monthly theme. This month we're wrapping up Guilty Pleasure Month. We may have to bring Guilty Pleasure Month back.
We might have to. This was a fun one.
We may have to bring it back as a recurring, kind of how we do with Wives' Choice.
Maybe every March.
We could do
maybe
that
every March.
Yeah.
We always follow Wives' Choice with Guilty Pleasure.
Yeah, I like that. We do, we basically do a month of what they want to watch, and then we do a month of exactly what we want to watch.
I think it works.
I do too. But yeah, we're back this week to talk about the story of Riki, the 1991 basically live action anime. It's a little bit of everything. So this movie is nuts. So
this is bonkers times 10.
Yeah. Before we get there, though, we want to give a shout out to page subscribers: Don S, Melissa L, Aaron A, and Mandy K. Thank you again for your patronage. It's greatly appreciated. All right, tell me who's in this movie, and then I will tell you all about it.
Because for my own cultural ignorance sake, I'm just going to stick with the characters themselves.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to the actors. Not that I will say this could come up later on in the show. The performance in this movie, for what this movie is great. So I strongly encourage you to read up on it and your online sources where you do your investigations, folks. As far as the characters themselves, though, we have the lead character Riki-Oh, a 21-year-old convicted of manslaughter, superhuman strength.
Mm-hmm.
They never really quite reveal exactly how. He does have a pretty sweet.
Yeah, Qigong.
Does have a pretty sweet training montage, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit, but especially the location of said training montage.
Oh yeah, it comes up.
We have his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're going to hear us use we might possibly use different names for the same characters.
Yes.
Because this movie, depending on the translation and even like the source that you're using, it's just different translations of names, different references of names. We have Keiko/Anne, who is his girlfriend, who we don't see very much of.
No.
We also have Master Zhang/Uncle, who is his uncle/master.
Right. It's all in the name.
Yeah. We have Assistant Warden Dan.
Which I read in the trivia is the actor who plays Ricky. This is his dad.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. The Assistant Warden, Dan, is Ricky's father in real life.
That is amazing.
Yes, it is. Okay,
well, there you go. That's why they have such great on-screen chemistry.
Is it?
Sure. So he's running the show for most of the movie.
Yeah.
We have Ma/Omar, who is an elderly inmate at this prison. We have Wildcat/Samuel, who is a prisoner who Ricky encounters early in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have his bald underling, who went by the name of Centipede in the version I watched.
Okay.
Who's also just great and fantastic, just because he pops up and makes funny faces. We have Silly Lung/Zorro, who is another inmate who is enlisted to try to take care of Ricky at one point. We have Alan.
Alan.
Yep. Alan, who is was not born mute, but who is now mute because his tongue was removed, and he's the nephew of
he's the godson.
Godson, there you go. Thank you. Godson of High/Oscar,
Right.
one of the four gang of four members. Like
Yes.
there's four wings to this maximum security prison, and Oscar runs one of them, along with his meek godson Alan. We have the other three gang of four members. Brandon, who's I love how, and I'm sure this will come up later, how they each have their own like personality and like weapons and stuff. There's Brandon, who's kind of like the ranged fighter of the group. You have Tarzan, who's like the tough guy of the group, and then you have Rogan, who's the oh god, I love Rogan. He's like the androgynous leader.
Yes.
Like, he's dressed well. He has earrings, very clean cut,
very
very
like feminine faced.
Yeah, I love the Rogan character so much. We have the warden, who is quite literally and figuratively the big bad.
Yeah,
and then we have the warden's kid, Ward something, whose name might be Andrew. I'm not sure.
I think it's Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
And then, there you go. And that's our list of characters, Oz, which as close as I could get there, based on a version and all that.
If you give me some liberties, I think I'm going to approach the plot a little different this time.
Sure.
Because this movie is just a string together of practical effects and creativity, with the plot line being extremely thin. So I think what I want to do this week is the two of us, I think I want to just hammer through the plot quickly. And I'm talking like in a matter of a couple of minutes. And then just discuss some of the ultra violent, like just special effects.
Sure.
Because that's really what this movie's about. The premise of this, like you said, we're in the future 2001. Ricky's been imprisoned. We don't know why, but he's
the future 2001.
Yeah, exactly. all prisons are now privatized.
We do have one of those things that you and I both love in movies.
Yes.
Like the pre-movie text.
Yep. The voiceover talk, and thankfully though they talked over it because it was all in, obviously a foreign language. This movie is a Hong Kong action film. And so really Ricky's in prison. Being a private prison, it's not regulated as well as it should be. The gang of four are in cahoots with the guards and the assistant warden and the warden himself. They're basically running I won't call it an underground, but they're running an opium den, kind of an opium growth, while the gang of four and their thugs are basically keeping the thumbs on the inmates. So because
they're using the inmates as like slave labor, basically.
So even though you've got a maximum security prison, you still have a hierarchy of these people are more important, and Ricky is kind of their savior. We find that he has got superhuman strength and martial arts ability, and as he just goes through the movie, he's challenged by the entire gang of four and their scheming, the guards as well. And he fights back and eventually takes them all down, takes out the warden or the assistant warden, has the big final matchup with the big bad, the head warden, who reveals we're from basically from the same school of martial arts. And so it's this big, expansive fight scene. And Ricky, he defeats everybody that needs defeated, and then punches a wall down of the prison, and then tells all the inmates you're free. And then he proceeds to leave, and they all just stand there and cheer him on from inside the prison. And that's the plot of the movie, really.
And we'll see you next week, folks. This is Oz and Curtis, so let's talk about flicks.
But what makes this movie so memorable is, like I said, the creativity and special effects. Yes. Because it's all practical, but it's all done so well. Like, like you watch some of it and you're like, if there's wire work, it's hidden and it's done really well. And so you've got just so graphic with the violence.
Oh my God.
Like I mentioned Dead Alive for a reason, because
I was wondering if Dead Alive was going to be in there.
I originally had Trauma, but took that out, for Dead Alive. But early on, you've got a scene where Ma, the older inmate he's a model citizen or whatever. He runs into one of the Gang of Four, and really it doesn't matter who they are. He runs into one of Samuel. But like he falls face first onto a piece of wood with nails, and we see we see the nails go through his hand and into his face. And then they take like a wood planer, like a hand planer, and like swipe it up his face, and they show it as this strip of flesh is removed from the center of his face. Ricky, it's just so many of these scenes. Ricky fights back against the Gang of Four member that did this to Ma, and ends up, kind of doing the same thing. Like, what did he do to his face? I watched it yesterday, but there's so much. Like, I know I referenced last week about how I watched UHF and then like 3 movies, but there are so many of these like hyper violent scenes in this movie that the early ones you kind of lose track of because there's so many to follow.
Well, and there's a lot of characters that kind of come and go.
Yeah,
one of the things I love about this movie is that it's like a series of boss fights.
Oh yeah, it really is. It feels like a video game of sorts.
Yeah, like you're introduced to like you think like the Samuel / Wildcat character is going to be like the villain of the movie,
right?
And he's gone like 15 minutes in,
yeah.
and then you think that Zorro's going to be the villain, and he's gone.
Yeah,
and then you think that Oscar's going to be the villain, and then he's gone, and then the assistant warden, and it just keeps building and building and building. So it is a little tough to keep track of the characters. But in this kind of movie, I really like how they do that.
It does feel like that, like an NES game Kung Fu, where you have to fight through each floor. Then you get to the end, and then you went up, and almost on like this pagoda that you're working your way to the top of.
Yeah.
So Samuel lines it up with a guard to send Zorro. Zorro is this just morbidly obese inmate that anytime he's out, it's destructive. Like he ate a horse yesterday, so he's hungry. And
you get the idea that they weren't speaking in like euphemism. Like he literally ate a horse.
Yeah, exactly. So they release Zorro. He throws Ricky against the wall in the shower, and you get the vibe that the actor playing Ricky does all of his own stunts too, because he gets up, Zorro comes charging him, and he literally punches into his gut. But they show it, and it's like his arm enters, and just the flesh punctures, almost like that game on The Price is Right, where they have to punch into the paper to pull a slip of paper out.
I'm never going to look at that game the same way again now.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Thanks for ruining The Price is Right for me.
But that's what it looks like. He pulls his head out, and then blood just floods out of his gut.
The next time I watch Plinko, I'm going to think of Samuel falling face first out of bed of nails.
Exactly. And so, just so much that, there's a... Like Omar, like Ma hangs himself because Ricky attacks Zorro, like he said. He guts him with his bare hands. Samuel comes after him, and Ricky just grabs his hand and just mangles his fingers, and they're all just.
Samuel comes after him with like a shiv, which is basically like a long nail.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Between his fingers, and he shoves it through Ricky's hand.
Yeah.
And Ricky, with this thing shoved through his hand, grabs Samuel's hands and just crushes them.
Right. And then of course Samuel backs up and his fingers are all every which direction.
Yeah.
Ricky then just pulls that nail out. No feeling. It's so great. And then punches through Samuel. So now Samuel's dead. And they throw Ricky in solitary. This is where he gets these flashbacks where he's seeing his girlfriend or whatever. But this, Samuel, was a member of the Gang of Four. So now they're all heading out. They visit the assistant warden. He's got a wall of pornography behind him.
Yeah, he does. Oh my goodness. That's a lot of pornography.
He's got a hook for a hand. He keeps his fake eye in a glass of water that he drinks out of. There's mints in this fake eye. It's just so ridiculous. you're like, oh yeah, the warden, he shoots Ricky, um, and then Ricky like slaps the bullet away, like, like Ricky punches, like then like the warden, like, oh, he can hurt people without touching them. He punches towards the assistant warden so hard that the air gives him a bloody nose. Like he punched.
It's like a Hulk thunderclap kind of thing. Yeah.
So again, now the Gang of Four, we got to kill Ricky. So Oscar comes after him first. Oh, this is a great scene. Oscar comes after Ricky. Like Oscar comes at him. Ricky like slaps him in the back of the head, and his eye falls out.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of crows come down and like feast on his eye.
Immediately descend on it.
But of course, Oscar's still okay, despite his eye just popping out. He then, or before that, he takes a thing of like powdered glass and throws it in Ricky's face.
Mm-hmm.
And then takes a knife and slashes his arm. So now he's like, has no use of an arm and he can't see, but he finds a water spring, busts it open.
Yeah, there happens to be like a water main that he just busts into.
Flushes his eye out, so now he can see again. Smacks the eye out of Oscar's head, and then uses his other hand and his teeth to retie the tendons together in his arm to get full use of his arm again. Mm-hmm. Oscar's overwhelmed, so then he takes his knife and guts himself, but then proceeds to try and strangle Ricky out with his intestines. All of this is in a movie. Like,
yes,
this is
and this is all one scene in a movie.
One scene. This is one scene. So Ricky breaks free, throws Oscar in the air to where he comes down upside down. Then Ricky punches him in the face. But they cut to an X-ray. They cut to an X-ray footage of someone having their skull crushed, as then Oscar falls dead. It's like all that's one scene. Like I said, this is, as I mentioned earlier, Ricky discovers that they're growing opium. So Rogan, the leader of the West Cell, they come to a fight. Brandon shows up, so now Ricky's facing down two of them. Brandon's throwing needles and ties up Ricky with them, like they just kind of boomerang needle around him, I suppose. And so like, nobody dies here, but it was still a pretty cool looking fight because Ricky goes and like sets all the opium, all the poppy flowers on fire. So like this like really cool scene of fighting out of the back. I read in the trivia, I think this was the scene. Ricky was doused in water so that he would be like protected by these flames because he was that close to him. Yeah. And the actor, I believe it was the actor playing Rogan. I think it was a woman. But the actor or actress playing Rogan, as Ricky's standing there, he's watching, and he starts to see, basically the back of her neck starts to smolder and smoke.
Really?
Yeah. And they cut, and I read in the trivia, and the actor that played Ricky was like, what's going on? And she just said, you weren't done with your lines yet. Like I'm like, oh, that's just so crazy. Because again, he was mildly protected, but she was not, and like was literally, her flesh was burning, but was like, I got to stay in character until the scene's done. Which don't blame her, because I wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
So let's see, where did I lose myself here? So the guards, Warden's on his way back from vacation. So assistant warden, anybody outside of their cell, shoot them. Of course they're still out fighting. Tarzan announces that he wants to fight Ricky. So let's see here. Though this is where they get Alan. Because they took Oscar's body and like peeled the tattoo off his back and hung it on
Oscar's covered in tattoos, and pretty sweet tattoos.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, he looked
like shoulders.
Yeah, he looked
full back.
He looked pretty sweet. But they cut the flesh off of his back and hung it on the wall, and were trying to talk Alan into killing Ricky, which come on, like if you guys can't kill Ricky, this kid's not going to do it. But
well, Alan and Ricky had formed a bond
they
as
had,
well.
yeah, because Ricky could play music on a leaf, and Alan can't because Alan had half of his tongue cut off. They show that, by the way. They show him open mouth with half a tongue. It's pretty gross looking. Yeah. So Ricky tosses him a pan flute that he keeps on himself, and Alan's happy again. But yeah, they're trying.
He was so happy to have that.
Yeah,
flute.
very happy. So they're trying to get Alan to turn on Ricky, but he refuses. So they cut half of his face off, and they show it. Just bottom half of his face just strips away, and then they burn his body and leave it out in the yard. And so the warden comes back. He's got his fat son with him. Dan. I love this. Just the warden's name is Dan. Dan informs him that the poppy garden is gone. The warden almost hulks out here, but he's taking a medication to keep that in check. That'll come back later.
He's taking a lot in
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he
at
is.
a great quantity.
It's
like a bowl of Skittles.
I didn't think about that. You've ruined Skittles for me the way I ruined Price is Right for you.
You're welcome.
So the warden, they're torturing Ricky. Tarzan bursts through because he wants to fight Ricky. Ricky just completely destroys half of his left arm, and then uppercuts him through the jaw.
Yeah,
and rips out that mandible. It's just gone.
It's like he's just left as a predator.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think every room in this prison is booby trapped somehow.
Yes.
Because where they're questioning Ricky, the warden is now letting the ceiling drop. Because they're going to crush him. Tarzan becomes conscious again, but then holds the ceiling up because he doesn't want to be crushed. But this allows Ricky to survive
out of some kind of like warrior's honor.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It's weird. Ricky
kind of like Jesse Ventura in The Running Man.
Exactly. Yeah, I see Tarzan.
Gladiator, go.
So they're now they bury Ricky alive for a week. We're gonna bury him not in a pine box or anything. We're just gonna put him in a hole and cover it
in the ground
and cover it in concrete or whatever.
Fully chained up.
Yeah.
Also.
So it's quite the Houdini wasn't gonna get out of this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so Warden tells him, if you could survive underground for a week, I'll let you free. Come on. We're going to bury you. No food, no air, no water, no anything for a week. And if you could survive, I'll let you free. Ricky survives.
Seems fair. Yeah. He makes it.
Yeah, he survives.
And after they dig him out with a backhoe,
yeah,
he flips off the top of the backhoe.
I know. I love it because
he's been immobile for a week.
Yeah, they've got it. Yeah, because they bury him in chains, and when they lift him out, again, he's still wrapped in chains. But then he just busts out of the chains. And I love it because you could tell they filmed it standing straight up and then just angled the footage, because when he busts out of the chains, he hovers for just a split second when there's nothing holding him up. And then of course he falls. The warden doesn't keep up on his end of the bargain. So we've got another fight here. I'm skimming through my notes here. Mm-hmm. We've got Freddy's dead body. So now it's the prisoners are starting to riot a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they're sick of being treated this way. Ricky breaks free from another thing. Oh, yeah. They tie Ricky up and kill and then taunt him with Freddy's dead body. Who he then, Ricky sees Freddy die and then breaks out of his chains. He could have broken free and actually maybe saved the guy. But he lets him get killed. Then Ricky punches the top half of a guy's head off.
That's my favorite guy too.
Yeah.
Punches the top.
And it's like his skull crown is sitting there filled with just slop.
Yeah.
And then he knocks out Dan's other eye, the good eye.
Yeah.
And this is where the inmates finally have had enough. They rebel. They chop Dan's arm off. You know, like the prison guards show up in riot gear. Ricky just punches holes in their bodies, like
through the riot shield.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Cue the kitchen. They all burst into the kitchen where the warden is. Dan is still there. The warden shoots Dan with a bullet, but it's got like gas pressure to it, and he blows up a la Big Trouble in Little China, and just explodes like Violet Beauregard that doesn't get taken to the juicers. Rogan and Brandon are still here. They confront Ricky. Ricky takes Rogan out. He ties his limbs together. Brandon just takes off. Like, he realizes he's too much for me. But the warden shoots him and kills him. So we're down to the final fight. We've got Ricky.
Final boss. Ricky
v. Warden. Warden tries to shoot Ricky, but he remembers that Ricky's immune to bullets because he's been shot 5 times. And
he's got 5 bullets lodged in him.
And the bullets are still there. So he then decides, well, it's time. I've not been taking my meds. And he hulks out into this, basically Goro with only 2 arms. Like, it's really hard to describe what he looked like because I would say this, with the exception of a couple times they clearly used a dummy. This was probably the worst special effects in the movie.
Yeah.
The warden's final form was pretty bad.
At least compared to everything else.
But it was still fun, like, because whoever it was, you get the illusion that they probably hired some like 7-foot actor to play this thing, because he was quite a bit larger than Ricky, but still, you could tell it wasn't just a guy on stilts. So they're fighting it out, but they come from the same school of martial arts, and so everything Ricky knows, the warden can do also. But Ricky ends up picking the warden up over his head and throwing him into a gigantic, like, floor-based meat grinder.
Yep, like an industrial meat grinder.
Yeah,
it's like it's designed to drop an entire cow into.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you felt. That's how you fed Zorro.
That's how they get the horse to him.
and Ricky just like pushes him down until he's ground up. All that's left is his head. And this is when he walks out into the prison yard, shows, hey, everybody, the warden's dead, the assistant warden's dead, the gang of 4 are dead, and he goes up to a gigantic wall and just punches through it. And they show it, like, the wall just crumbles, and and Ricky declares, you're all free. And I know I kind of went back into plot here, but it's just a showcase of ridiculous, over-the-top, grotesque, violent scenes. But they're so far violent and so far extreme that, I mean, they're just so, like, unbelievable. You've got, you've got Tarzan in his first appearance, just walks up to a guy and just claps his hands together and just smashes his head. We mentioned it a couple weeks ago, that Craig Kilborn used this as an introduction, not to his moment as Zen, but to his 5 questions for his guest. On the original Daily Show as the host, and that's it. Ricky steps out of the prison and he's off to his next adventure or whatever. There's a lot we left out, but again, the plot on this is paper thin. UHF last week had a thicker plot than this one, but this was
an encyclopedia level plot compared to the story of Ricky.
This was basically guys in prison. Prison has bad guys. Prison's doing bad things. Ricky stops bad guys.
Yeah.
The end.
That's pretty much it.
So that is story of Ricky.
All right, I guess we're going to jump right to the rating again. At this point in the show, Oz and I each give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about. In this case, 1990-something's Story of Ricky. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna give this 8 punches to the gut.
Okay. 8 gut punches.
8 gut punches.
to the gut or in the gut?
Through the gut.
Through the gut. Okay.
Yeah. So, what about you?
I'm gonna go with 95. Let's say eyeball mints.
Ooh, good one. Because those are little mints.
They were very small mints.
So.
Next up, we got Outside Insight. Folks, Oz and I have been scouring the interwebs, looking for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours too. Oz, what is your Outside Insight?
I have 3. Okay, they're all short, but I have 3. And I just realized that looking at the 3, because I went to Letterboxd and I went to reviews and I said sort by highest. Okay, I wanted good reviews. 2 of these were left on March 14th of this year. The other one was left on March 16th of this year.
So, like, days old as of the time of this recording.
Yes, like days old.
Okay.
What's disappointing is that there are now 3 people that have written a review of Story Ricky that are not going to watch the movie because we talked about it. They've already watched it. All 3 5-star reviews. Here's the first one. Ricky seems pretty cool, but I'd be so annoyed if the evil guys crushed my head into jelly and Ricky just watched, even though we all know he could break out of his restraints at absolutely any time. Thanks, Kevin Johnson.
Okay. That former Phoenix Suns point guard, Kevin Johnson.
It is. This next one is Jake Greenberg, just left on the 14th. 5-star review. Top 2, and it's not 2.
What?
It's number 1.
Out of compared with,
I know it's a top 2, but it's not 2.
Favorite sandwich condiments.
Yeah,
Story of Ricky's number 1,
right.
followed by Dijon mustard.
Exactly. And the third one left by Willard. The reason I'm pro prison is without them, movies like Riki-Oh wouldn't exist.
There you go.
Yeah, kind of a. I don't know if that is going to hold up, but you know why I love the reason I love prisons is because of movies like Story Ricky. You can't have prison exploitation films without prisons. So those are my 3 outside insights. What about you?
I got a couple as well, both from the Internet Movie Database. One a 10 out of 10, one a 1 out of 10. I'll start with the 10 out of 10.
Okay.
This one was left in March of 2020 by Acosis. This film will take you all the way to WTFsville and back again.
It's a round trip.
It is, yeah.
That's good. I wouldn't want to be left in WTFsville.
They got a nice little bed and breakfast in WTFsville.
Maybe they have a Greyhound station you can get back in.
I think it's on Route 66.
I think so.
That's my 10 out of 10. The 1 out of 10 is from Old Crow from October of 2004. I was warned before watching this movie, but nothing could prepare me for this kind of an experience.
Ooh.
In quotes. Never have I seen anything so disturbing or disgusting in my entire life. One of the worst movies I have ever seen. The first thing I wanted to do afterwards, watch Finding Nemo.
Oh, I love it. Gotta cleanse that palate.
The only thing that's gonna wash all this out is Finding Nemo.
Oh, I needed my Ellen DeGeneres fix.
I know. Only that's gonna wash away all of this.
Yeah.
This ground up human meat. Finding
I love
Nemo cleanses all.
Yep. It's because of all the water.
It is. It's literally because of the water.
Flush it all away.
It's that time of the show you've all been waiting for, folks. 3, 2, 1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the film in question. In this case, 1990-something's insanely bonkers film, The Story of Ricky. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
My first good is the combination of imagination and practical effects. This movie started as a manga, and so on the the drawn page, you could get away with anything you could come up with, because it's just whatever your pencil does. But to take the imagination and then having the effects team being able to cobble it together is pretty impressive, because this movie did come out in 1991. I mean, that's 32 years ago, and it was still fully practical effects, and they were killing it. Look, it may not be believable, but we'll get it done. And so I feel, you look at art houses like a K&B, and they do some absolutely incredible things, but you could tell that there's a budget behind it. This movie doesn't have a budget behind it. But yet they still have the creativity to say, yeah, we could take that fake eye gag and make it work. And it did. I love that combination of we'll make your imagination come to life. My second one is just the absolute awful overdubbing, and then giving everybody an English name, or some sort of English name to go with it, like Dan. And when you have a full Asian cast, and you're looking at them, and you're like, "There's Alan, there's Oscar." There's Dan.
There's Brandon.
There's Ricky. I love it, because it's like, clearly it is not how it was originally intended. It was all in the dub, but it just really makes it that much more charming. And my third one, and this is, I mentioned there's no budget, but where they left the budget out was definitely in the flashback scenes. And I absolutely love the remote control airplane and helicopter scene that he and his girlfriend are. I love it. He's flying a remote control airplane, and he's in like a sweater vest, and they're just in love and having a great time. And he hands her the plane, and then he flies a helicopter in with like tapestry, like declaring his love for her, and it's just so cheesy and so goofy, but I love it because it's I won't say it shows the range of the actor who played Ricky, but it's like you could tell he was all in on whatever they wanted to do. So I love it. That's my third good. How about you?
My three goods. Speaking of flashbacks, I'm gonna go to the to the training sequence with his uncle / master / whatever. So it opens with him visiting the grave of, I don't know, his parents. I don't know, something. Sure,
some dead guy.
Yeah, and this uncle character shows up, and like, hey, I know who you are, blah blah blah, and Ricky runs over to him, asks, like, I want you to train me. Ricky, for some reason, first he's on his hands and knees, and he kind of grabs at his uncle's pants, and he starts yelling, but he's not looking up. He's just looking forward. Yeah. So he's like yelling directly into his uncle's groin.
Oh yeah.
I want you to train me.
Train me, uncle.
Train me. I'm ready to go. Like a little eye contact, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it just and going. This is all one good.
Oh yeah.
And then how this training sequence unfolds. They're in a graveyard.
Yep.
Training.
Yep.
In a very confined graveyard.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yes, and they're literally using people's headstones to train. The uncle is throwing them at Ricky, who is punching and kicking them and like chest bumping them out of the air.
Yeah. Like, this graveyard is so constrained, there is no way these bodies are not overlapping underground.
Yeah. They're like crisscross, toe to head.
Yeah.
But like they're clearly messing with the dead.
Oh yeah. I love it.
And abusing the peaceful rest of people, and just throwing these gravestones everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So that's my first good. I almost said bad there, but
it's great because this uncle resembles is it David Wong so much. Like, am I referencing this? Like, is it David Wong? Is that his first name? Who played Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China?
James Hong.
James Hong. There you go. I'm sorry. If you're listening, I'm sorry. If you're listening, we're probably in trouble. Uh, but yeah, I felt like he resembled him enough that you could talk yourself into it being him. But yeah, I love that scene as well. Your second good.
My second good. Oh God, there's so many to pick from here.
There are.
I love how the Gang of Four, they each have a different look, a different personality, a different fighting style. I honest to God did not know, and I should have with the research, that Rogan was played by a female. I did not know that until you mentioned it. Which I guess explains to some degree the feminine look, but even regardless, like I love how like the mix of masculine, feminine characters, the different fighting styles, the different dress, the different mannerisms.
But at the same time, like they dubbed her over with a male voice, which is enough to throw you off. But I feel like I think you get some liberties there because this is a full-scale maximum security prison full of males. Okay, so you assume Rogan's a male, just a very feminine male. But yeah, by casting a female in the role, you're going to get that look you want. So you've got her playing a male character effeminately.
And they even lean into that sometimes too. Like at one point they're torturing.
Yeah.
They're torturing Riki. They have him like kind of bent. Like there's a bunch of like steel beams.
Yeah.
Like kind of bent.
It's kind of like giant rebar. That's.
Yeah, exactly. And Brandon's like literally hitting him in the head with a wrench, and he hits him like a dozen times in the head with a wrench.
Right.
And Rogan steps in and is like, no, I got this. And then shoves a piece of rebar with his foot against Ricky's groin.
Right.
So it's like the character with this androgynous kind of look and personality is the one who's attacking, like the sexual organs of Riki. And it just, I love how it just leans into that. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, Rogan shoves a handful of razor blades into Ricky's mouth.
Right. And then duct tapes his mouth shut.
and then slaps his head around a little bit.
Right. So like I said, it's so easy to forget some of the scenes in this movie because it's almost nonstop.
Yeah, and I'm even going to tie in. So you could debate this if this is another good or not, but and I kind of mentioned this before, but like the progressive entry of all of these, the villain characters as well, and just I love it so much. My last good is simply this movie does not give a fluff.
No.
It doesn't at all. It does exactly what it wants to do, how it wants to do it, and the way it wants to do it. It's funny when it wants to be funny. It's awful when it wants to be awful.
Yes.
It's gory when it wants to be gory. It even makes some sly political statements about like the privatization of like the prison system and the legal system. There's some social rub in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that this movie is like like progressive by any means, but like it takes a couple little pokes there as well if you're watching.
That's awesome.
So, all right, hey Oz, what are your two bads?
Well, one of these bads is kind of an extended good. The guards in this prison are so hilariously pathetic.
Yeah.
And it's like they're just absolutely pathetic as guards. Like there's not a single pound of muscle in any of them. They're just sniveling and whiny, and so it's like they're bad in that they're bad. They're not bad because it's a negative on the movie. They're just bad because they're just you go over there. Like everything they say has just fear behind it.
And they'll have like doors open into their faces.
Yeah,
and like...
They're just doofuses.
Yeah.
My second one is a little bit more movie pointed in that in the off times where there's nothing going on, there's so much heightened ultra violence in this movie that when it's not present, the movie just drags.
Sure.
It just kind of comes crashing down, and it's not that it's terrible, but it's just that. You're riding this high for so long, and then we have to see an extended scene of the warden and his pathetic son. Mm-hmm. And it's like, even though that scene's only like 4 or 5 minutes, it's enough to where I caught myself dozing a couple times in a movie that shouldn't be. And so that's it. It's 91 minutes, and it feels very long if there's not the graphic ultra violence going on.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of other movies like that. I know there's a movie we watched back in the day called Versus about,
Yep.
like a forest of zombies or whatever mixed with the Matrix. It's again another just bonkers movie, but when there's nothing going on, it just
Yeah.
slow. So those are my two bads. What about you?
My first bad is just, and it kind of builds off your last one there. Just there's zero plot connectivity.
Right.
Like there's plot holes everywhere. That's not why you watch a movie like this. So I'm being really nitpicky.
Yeah.
But again, if you're watching a movie if you want to watch a movie with an intricate plot details,
Yeah,
and
don't start
character
here.
arcs, it's probably not the one you want.
Probably not.
My other bad, early in the film, Samuel is talking I think he's talking to the guard about like, hey, we need to free Zorro to go take out Ricky, and they're at a bank of urinals.
Oh,
And you
I
can
think
see
I
in the
know where you're going here.
And you can see in the frame, there's at least 6 urinals there, like wall urinals,
Oh,
and they're both standing at urinals directly next to each
yeah.
other.
Okay, I didn't know you were going there. I thought you were going to go with after they both finished going to the bathroom. Samuel then just puts a cigarette in his mouth and starts smoking, and the guard goes and the guard just goes and rinses his hands off with water. That's where I thought you were going, but yeah, your proximity.
I honestly didn't catch that, but yeah, that's definitely up there. Yeah, be be sanitary.
Yeah,
in
a little
ultraviolence. But like, and I'm not like the guy who's like, well, like if I'm going to the movies like with you, Oz, like I don't need like the empty seat between us because like,
Right.
oh my god, what if our knees touch?
Yeah, yeah,
But like, if you're there is like a courtesy to it, I guess, like an
A little
unspoken courtesy that if you're in the male restroom and you can have an
Yeah.
empty urinal between
Yeah.
that's a courtesy. Again, not that it has to, like if there's 5 urinals and 4 are occupied, yes, go take the one that isn't. Don't wait,
Right.
to have a spacer urinal.
yeah.
But like if there's 6 of them
yeah,
and there's 2 of you, just it's okay to spread out.
yeah, and especially, and I understand that Samuel was wanting to stand next to the guard so that he could share his thoughts, but again, everybody already knows you're in cahoots with the guards.
Yeah.
And it's an empty bathroom. Like,
Could you keep it down?
although I will admit it would have been one of my goods if he would have walked up and started using the same urinal. Across the streams action.
You're gonna have to speak up. I got a really loud scream.
Right. It's kind of ropey.
Oh, I got a bad case of the loud scream.
Right.
On that note, Oz, what's your one, huh?
I've got 2 huhs.
Perfect.
Did Ricky and his uncle replace the headstones they destroyed? or did the next like visitor to said graveyard not know where they were?
They had to like label them. We have like a spreadsheet or something.
Pretty sure my grandma was buried here. But, and my second one is when Ricky's girlfriend takes a swan dive off the building, and we see her fall all the way down and smash into the road, and then like face first, and then they cut to her laying there. How did her face survive that fall? Like the dummy clearly landed on its face, and then we cut to her, and she's just. So yeah, those are my 2 huhs. It's like, oh, granted, the first one's more topical. The second one is because it clearly was a dummy that they were dropping from high above. But I still love the fact that they're like last week with UHF where they were tossing the poodles out the window, and then you saw the mound of poodles,
the pile of poodles,
and the one poodle almost you see it hit the pile before they cut away. Like here, they actually show Ricky's girlfriend make impact with the road. You're like, oh, yeah, but at this point you really don't even care because so much violence has been going on that you're like, whatever. Yeah. So those are my 2 huhs. What about you?
I'm gonna go with 3 huhs this week.
Good.
My first is again at the beginning of the movie. Ma has that toy train that he made from like scrap wood around.
Yeah.
And it was broken against his head.
Yeah.
Samuel broke it against his head, and then Ricky had rebuilt one. which he kept inside of his shirt.
I noticed that.
And he put on Ma's corpse as they were hauling it out. Yeah, when Ricky entered that room, he had not seen the toy train fully built.
No.
By the time he walked in, it had already been crushed. So how did he know what that looked like? Like, was he able to just look at the parts and like using like 3D modeling inside of his head?
It's Ricky, probably.
Yeah.
He probably picked one up at the commissary at the prison. They're already pre-made.
Like, he didn't see what it looked like built. How was he? Whatever.
Whatever.
So that's my first huh. My second huh. Let's see. What order do I want to go in? How old is Anne?
Yeah, she was a bit young.
She looked very young. Like, I don't want to sound judgy. No. She looked very young.
We didn't see him doing anything, so that
is true. That is true.
But yeah, I agree.
And granted, it was a flashback. However, she looked very young.
She was 18 when this
character or the actress?
The actress. The actress is 18.
Okay.
Movie came out in 73, or she was born in 73. Movie came out in 91.
Okay.
Actually, the actor who played Ricky was also 18.
Really?
Yeah. She was actually older than he was. She was born in January. He was born in June.
Okay. Well, I guess there you go.
Yeah. He was cut for 18. Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. I had a dislocated shoulder when I was 18. But I guess when you're indestructible.
I think I had strep throat like a dozen times by the time I was 18. Trying to think, by the age of 18, what had I done? Let's see. I wasn't cut like that guy. I couldn't smash through a prison wall.
Right. Yeah. Well, you weren't imprisoned either, though. So I guess your life had a little better layout than his.
At the age of 18, I was really into Black Cow milkshakes from Arby's.
I was really into radio-controlled helicopters, but...
well, I mean, so was Ricky. So.
Right. Had that going for us.
My last huh in my series of hahs this week. How come in schools, they teach kids, like usually the recorder is like the introduction to an instrument. How come they don't teach kids how to play the leaf instead?
I'd start there. A lot cheaper for schools.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's going to help your music budget a lot.
Yeah, quite a bit. A lot cheaper. Save some money instead of replacing recorders every year, which nobody enjoys the sound of.
No.
Get a leaf.
Just give them all an opium leaf.
Yeah.
And here you go.
It works. I love it.
And then you skip around the prison yard, clicking your heels together. Ha
Oh,
I also love. I almost had this in one of my goods earlier. When they showed what's the Alan?
Yeah,
that Cantonese, that traditional Cantonese name, Alan.
Alan.
When they showed him trying to play the leaf, it wasn't working. He puts it down and then he tries another leaf.
Maybe this one's not musical.
Yeah. and then Ricky comes by and he gives him. No, it was before he gives him the flute. Alan stands up and there's a huge pile. He has a huge pile of leaves on his lap. So like he tried over 100 leaves.
They're all used up. All their notes are. There's no music left in these.
There's a finite amount of music in each leaf.
You can only play it so much. Well, it's like a warp whistle. You can only use it once.
Well, I mean, it's kind of its own reed.
Yeah.
I would assume that a leaf is in the woodwind family as opposed to brass.
Well, it'd have to be.
You have to replace the reed.
Right? Yeah. You're onto it. Yeah. Oh my!
I'm going to talk to our band teacher at school. Hey, you really want to flesh out your instrumentation and save your budget?
I'd like to donate leaves. Oh, that puts a wrap on Story of Ricky. That puts a wrap on episode 74, and that puts a wrap on Guilty Pleasure Month for 2023. We will be back next month with a new theme. Next month's theme.
New theme.
Yep. wrestlers in movies.
Nothing says April like wrestlers movies.
Well, I do believe I have to look.
WrestleMania is coming up.
WrestleMania is coming up, so this is
this one well.
Yeah, an ode to WrestleMania in that we're going to highlight some of the major motion pictures that wrestlers have starred in. Which
and we do occasionally reference like 80s and 90s wrestlers.
We do quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is a spot for both of us, too. Like, I know we both grew up with professional wrestling as a mode of entertainment. And so this will be a way for us to kind of pay homage to why some of these guys should have just stuck to the squared circle and not to the silver screen. We were talking pre-show about all of the decent opportunities we could have had to fill this month, but instead we filled it with less than
trash.
With less than's. So we're going to kick off next week with your first pick. What is it?
Ready to Rumble.
Yeah, an actually wrestling themed movie.
Yes.
Yeah, we will
featuring an Arquette sibling.
Yeah, we will actually bookend this month with wrestling themed movies. But we're going to kick off next week and next month with Ready to Rumble. So make sure you tune in for that. Social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There is a Patreon link down below. Feel free to like and subscribe and share with your friends as well, because we'd love to see our subscriber count grow. Just because, why not? But otherwise, that's about all we have for Guilty Pleasure Month. I do think we should sandwich this in for every March. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good flow.
So, all right. Well, for Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
We'll see you guys next week.